Let's go through a method that you can use to do some date arithmetic, to count some days in order to finish off parts D and E here on assignment number 1. Borrowing money, lending money is always a function of time, and sometimes that amount of time is calculated in days. And in the world of business, a lot of times you need to know exactly the exact number of days when something is due. And so that's what this is, a little practice, doing some date arithmetic. And so we'll go ahead and use Excel to do that. And so we'll go ahead and start with a practice problem. This is how I set up part D here. You could do something like this when we get to it. And then part E, you can go ahead and use a very similar strategy to calculate the number of days between dates. It'll be the same type of calculations. But before you do that, you'll want to make sure that you are very familiar with how many days there are in each month. It's really important for your counting to be correct, and that you need to know that January has 31 days, and March has 31, and April has 30, and so on and so forth. So if you're not sure what they are, just simply go to my Quizlet site. Or you can go right to Schoology, and there's a link there to this particular Quizlet, Days of the Months. And if you want to go directly to Quizlet and look for it, you can do that at mhartung2292. And most of you are signed up for that. But you can go through and do a little bit of practice and just make sure that you know those. And it's something you'll want to know before you leave high school. It's just good information to know when you go into the world of being an adult, that you know that there is no November 31st. It would be embarrassing to assume that there is November 31st and try to schedule something on such a date. So you don't want to do that. But for the immediate task at hand, you will want to know how many days there are so that you can accurately calculate these problems. So let's do a practice one. So here we are in November, and let's assume that it's November 2nd. And we want to know what is the date 120 days from this date. 120 days. So here's what we can do. First of all, let's calculate how many days are remaining in November. And so the way I would approach this is just type an equal sign, and you need to know how many days there are in November. There are 30 minus 2. So there's 28 days remaining in November, and we're trying to get to 120, and we want to know what the date is at that point. So we need another month. So we could go ahead and use our fill command and just go ahead and grab some months here, like so. And December, because you practice your Quizlet, you know how many days are there in December? 31. And then you can just simply come over here and calculate 31 plus the 28. Or, if you would rather, equal sign 28 plus 31. So now we're at 59 days. And remember, we're trying to get to 120, and then we're going to know what the date is, 120 days from November 2nd. So we need more. So let's go ahead and get January. We can get 31 days out of January. And we can do that same calculation, and because we've already done the calculation, we can simply copy that. Now we're at 90. How many days do we need to go to get to 120? So we're at 90 days. We need to get to 120. So we would need 120 minus 90 out of February. But we can't do that because how many days are there in February? And we will assume no leap year. 28. We can only get 28 days. So let's go ahead and do our calculation again. We're at 118. 118 days. We're only 2 days away. We could do a little calculation with Excel, but we've done enough math throughout our lives that we know that 120 minus 118 is 2. So how many days in March do we need? We need 2. And we can double check that just by dragging that formula down. Hopefully it equals 120, and there it is, 120, 120. Therefore, the date, 120 days from November 2nd, is March 2nd. So that's how you would do date arithmetic. And so, in a similar fashion, you can go ahead and use that strategy to calculate March 10th, January 20th, and September 13th. You've got a 90, 120, and another 90-day problem there. And make sure you assume there is no leap year as indicated here. And then go ahead and put those right down here like that. And see if you can calculate that in a similar fashion and find the date 90 days from March 10th, 120 days from January 20th, and 90 days from September 30th. And then go ahead and do part E and see if you can apply what we've just learned to figuring out how many days there are between February 15th to April 4th, and then June 13th to September 7th. And I'll come around and take a look at your work. So have fun with that. Date arithmetic.